Hello everyone and welcome to the First Strike North America Closed Qualifiers presented to you by Nerd Street Gamers. Guys, this is it. After 10 days of competition, we have finally arrived at the Closed Qualifiers finals. We started with 128 teams. We got it down to just 4, but tonight only the last two standing, 100 Thieves and Envy, will be the only ones that matter because they will have to fight for seeding and for pride. Now, if you missed the first 4 days of the closed qualifiers, honestly, where have you been? But don't worry, I'm here to give you a quick recap. We saw some incredible matches in the group stages and in the playoffs. 4 teams, Sentinels, Renegades, alongside 100 Thieves and Envy, earned themselves a spot at the NA First Strike Regional Finals in December, where they will battle it out for that 100k prize pool and the title of NA's best Valorant team. Yes, both 100 Thieves and Envy have already qualified, but they do have to play a decider tonight to see who will receive the higher seed at the main event. But before I get ahead of myself, let me introduce you to our casters tonight. It is Vansili and the man who's been hosting the stream all week, Bok. Guys, I feel like I've earned a slight promotion, you know, coming from the Nerd Street Gamers too. Now I'm on Nerd Street Gamers. It's honestly an honor to be here with the both of you. Bok, you haven't actually casted any of these games this week. How excited are you to get on the mic tonight?
Oh, I love working with Alex. He and I have a lot of fun whenever we cast. He's a legend, even though he doesn't want to admit it, so it's always fun to jump into the action. And it's great to get a chance to, you know, flex my vocal cords a little bit. I may have scarred them just a bit by consuming this for you guys.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. But it's feeling much better, because the truth is I always have Twitch chat right where it matters, right here, dead center, right on the heart.
Awesome. I'm doing great myself. I'm super stoked for this. I mean, like you said, Yinsu, it's been a long 2 weeks, even gruesome for a lot of these teams, and to make it now to the grand finals today where, you know, those that made it in the top 4 already yesterday, that's where it mattered. But now as we go for seeding, we also play for pride for these two teams, and I'm nothing but more than excited for this finals.
Me too. Well, let's just quickly jump into these two teams. You know, we do have both of our finalists tonight, 100 Thieves and Envy, as I said earlier. Not perhaps the two teams that everyone expected to be in the finals, had I asked both of you this question 2 weeks ago, but it's definitely hard-earned. You know, they both deserve to be here. But let's talk about that 100 Thieves team first. They had to be TSM, and then they had to be Sentinels. That's not an easy thing to do in a best of 3. Do you think, after everything they've done this week, that they've done enough to be considered at least as one of the strongest teams in NA?
That's a tough one, right? I look at this 100 Thieves team and I think this roster, there was a lot of risk when it came time to sign this roster. You know, 100 Thieves really took a gamble, especially when they went and, I guess to a certain extent, poached Nitro away from CS, and then they brought Steel in as well. But what they gained was 2 players who were really capable of working with young talent. So when they brought in players like Asuna and Dicey, they basically created a team that shouldn't fail. You have Nitro, who's worked with young players like that in the past, and then obviously we know what Steel was capable of, taking that Chaos roster and turning it into a bit of a beast in the North American region. And you can see just in these highlights alone how well these players have been playing. Dicey specifically as the Jet has been a highlight monster. It seems like that's all he does, Vansili.
Yeah, for me, the story of 100 Thieves, or the 100 Thieves, is it's the story of redemption. For Hiko going in and retiring from CS, streaming for a bit, and streaming and getting a lot of viewers for Valorant, then starting with the 100 Thieves roster with the high grounds, the PUBG players from before, they did not get any good results. Now they're able to come in and pick up these 4 players. His story of redemption is, can he still compete? How is 100 Thieves going to look? Is he really the problem? Then he has Steel, the story of redemption for him, coming in from Counter-Strike, known for, you know, his prowess with iBuyPower and what happened in that storyline, has a new chance in Valorant in that scene right now. And can he actually be on the top and performing just like he did in Counter-Strike Source and in Counter-Strike Go? And then you have it for Nitro. He's leaving CSGO where he actually didn't really reach his prime yet. There is still so much more room in terms of development in his career in CSGO, and he decided to let it go for Valorant. And how is he going to be with that team moving in now? And then for the last 2 players, Dicey and for Asuna, Have they done the right move? Have they made the right decision, leaving the Immortals and joining this roster? And so far, it's proving to be a nice recipe for success for this roster.
Well, Vansili, I'm glad you mentioned those two at the end because I quickly wanted to dive into them a bit more because all week everyone loves talking about the boomers on this team. You know, it's the boomers and the zoomers. You got the boomers who have the experience, who have the expectations, who in a way have everything to lose because if they don't perform, this team is not going to do well. However, after everything you've seen from the two zoomers on 100 Thieves, how impressed have you been with their performances?
If I want to start, I've always been really impressed, again, from when they had their times with Immortals, right? When Asnaf first started, I think his first break was playing with Immortals on a map like Ascent, and he was already going around as a Reyna and starting to get a couple of kills, and you're like, oh, wow, these guys are somewhere. They're a blip on the radar, and then they're blowing up. They're growing bigger and bigger. And same thing for Dicey. He got a nice chance being as a Jet player. People thought that he was going to be a one-trick pony, but he's still playing as a Jet right now for the roster for the 100 Thieves, but it still completes them as a whole. So those two together, even though they're going to be the ones that are looking for the entry frags to start, and the question mark was, if they actually do die first, can the other guys actually step up to the plate in terms of what we call the boomers? And definitely they have been. So it's been impressive, for these two players. And how do we shut them down for Envy now?
Bok, right, let's talk about Envy, who are on the other side. They are, I would say, who are maybe the challengers in this instance. They arguably had the easier bracket going into this final. You know, Renegades did them a huge favor by knocking out Cloud9 Blue. But Bok, what have you made of their performances? And who's been, I guess, the standout players, in your opinion, for this roster?
Well, that's the beautiful thing about this roster. I don't feel like you necessarily need a standout player. You've got some expanded talent in the players of like Food and Crashies, who I think can seriously deliver when necessary. But even looking at these clips, you'll see some clips from FNS, who himself was never praised as a strong individual performer. And then Caboose has really stepped up. We've seen some massive plays from Caboose in general in this and also during the Ignition series as well. I think Caboose plays the Phoenix and Raze really well. So and then you have Mummy, who's anchoring down as the op. I remember casting Mummy's first LAN in CS. It was all the way across the pond in Poland. His team did not do that well. His career kind of tailspinned until he came back and started playing in Valorant. And since then, he's really made a name for himself. Maybe not as prolific an operator player as someone like Wardell necessarily, but I still think he's plenty flashy and he's got some serious skill as well. So it gives something for them to fall back on. But ultimately, as we've watched this Envy team kind of grow, we've watched the pressure fall off of his shoulders and land on everybody else's. It's even workload distribution that makes Envy so scary. Yeah,
actually, to add on to that, the even workload distribution to be able to add more for Mummy. And you know what? I tend to disagree in the fact that he's maybe not up there with Wardell. I think he is. He's been so good this past week with the operator before, and even not having to play as a Jet, switching as an Omen on other maps, he's still putting up good numbers with the operator. So when you're looking at the storyline of Dicey and Mummy in that head-to-head, we know how hot Dicey's been yesterday. There's some memes, there's some tweets that came out and how good he was versus Wardell yesterday. And is he gonna maintain that form versus Mummy, who for me has been consistently very good with the operator?
Well, the interesting thing is that these two teams have to play a best of 5. They're not really used to being the two teams that end up in the tournament final and playing best of 5s. And in this instance, the picks and bans are going to be slightly different because we don't have that map advantage. So if we take a look at the picks and bans now, there are actually no bans, just picks in this instance, because it's a best of 5. So we are going to play all of the maps. So if we do get to that 5th map, so if it does end up being 2-2, the 5th map will be randomly generated, so neither team has an advantage. But Vansili, now looking at the map picks and looking at how it's gone and the order it's gone, who do you fancy here?
So if I'm not mistaken, though, if we're looking at, because I was looking also from what was picked in ban, and I think the first map is going to be Bind. So maybe it's a little bit off of what we have with map picks and bans, but if I'm going with the tournament organizer here in the back end, I think it's Bind, Split, Ascent, and Haven. So if we're looking at, because I think for me, map rotation and the map series is very important going into this matchup. And to start things off on Bind, I think it's going to be very close. It's a map that's very comfortable, that's chosen a lot by 100 Thieves, and I think they're very comfortable to play in that map. Although both of these two teams had some very nice results versus top tier within this tournament itself. Then you get into Split, where I think it's actually going to be in favor of Envy, as we haven't really seen 100 Thieves being tested or play that a lot into this tournament. Then if we get into Ascent, man, Ascent, they've been looking good for both teams, but I still have to give the edge there to 100 Thieves. Then if it goes on to Haven, that's where they both haven't been tested that much, although Envy did get like a 13-1 versus Complexity, while you did have actually 100 Thieves win like in overtime versus TSM yesterday, right? So if I have to go in as best out of 5, I still think it's going to go the distance, because these guys are not going to let go of the pedal and on the gas. I think they still want to win this for pride.
Yeah, I mean, it ultimately boils down to who wants it more. We've talked about it before. The map pool doesn't matter. It's only 4 maps. Everyone plays the same map. So there isn't like 7, 8, 9 maps, and there's those automatic bans. I think it comes down to who's going to want this one more. Is it going to be 100 Thieves, or is it going to be Envy? And Alex, Yinsu and I were all talking about ahead of time, and it feels like 100 Thieves has a whole lot more to prove. There's a bit of a chip on their shoulder just to illustrate that this team is going to succeed, and they're going to find the success that everyone wanted them to find as we let Yinsu go. And we jump straight into the action. You've already got Asuna pushed all the way up towards Hookah. But when you look at the rest of the team, it's going to be a short push onto this A site to dash in. That's the tailwind from Dicey. Mummy is there to greet him with a frenzy of all things. Mummy starts to back off, gets jump shot from Steel with the classic. And he's going to have to fall back as well, as he's down to 11 HP. Started to pull for that Nano Swarm, has to back off. The Alarm Bot leaves his target vulnerable, and that kind of initiates a push from him. Doesn't work out so well. The push continues to move in that direction, and Food's going to gobble it all up. It's all down to Asuna, who is across the map with full HP. Spike is in control of Envy.
Yeah, first off, a nice paranoia from Mumbai to slow things down, slow down the attack. And the second thing is FNS, even if he didn't spawn Asuna or go in a head-to-head battle, to just keep him there as he's trying to be that flank watcher, trying to be the one that's going to cut them on rotations and eventually flank. Now he's stuck in a 4 versus 1. It's going to be a very tough one to win. And while they know this, that Asuna has to fall back towards the A main, then you do have FNS going for the flank himself. So a great start here from Envy that denies a quick push from 100 Thieves into the hookah area, and it starts off quite well for the defender side.
Envy solid stomp as they tried to get control of short. 100 Thieves falls short. Steel the only one who finds a kill on the round. And we've seen some impressive performances from Steel, usually playing as the killjoy of all things. It's been an up and down roller coaster style for him, as he's had huge maps followed by maps that things just didn't work out. We'll see what's going to happen here as we go for this aggressive play. There's Food with the peek. The recon dart not giving them the information in time. Still takes that fight and wins it. The shock dart going in, and that's going to do significant damage as Crashies puts one right in the breadbasket of 100 Thieves. They start moving up. They've managed to upgrade, I guess, to a frenzy of all things. But
and that's the thing, sorry, Bog, just to mention, because they only had 1 kill on a previous round for 100 Thieves, they're going for a full classic save with only the upgrade on the frenzy. So it's a good money economy generation, or not generation, but it's a good way to control your economy so you can have a better gun round into the next.
Crashies still hiding in the bin. The tailwind over top of the site puts Jet on the backside of the play. Crashies able to quickly take care of Dicey. And there's the recon dart going down as well. The spike attempting to be planted here. Do they get it? No. Almost getting that plant cache. But FNS was there with the denial. Caboose gets the final kill on the round. Envy will win the first 2. They do lose 2 players. And a round that was somewhat of a softball toss. But now we'll see the buy come in from 100 Thieves, and we'll try to figure out what Envy decides to do. A couple of players bringing in the weapons from the previous round, and 2 having to upgrade puts their money in an awkward state.
Yeah. I think it's those that are able to buy Vandals into this round. I would think that Mummy would like to drop his, there you go, he's going to drop it for his teammate Crashies, because Crashies cannot upgrade to anything else. So the ones that do have money for Caboose and Mummy will go with the Phantoms. This is an opportunity here for 100 Thieves to actually break the economy for a bit into the next, where they could force a smaller buy into the next round should they win this one here. And this is something that I like so far from both of these teams, as they both like to take control of the long B. And we saw on other matches, for example, where it's not contested enough, where you're trying to push your defenders back, they both use their Sovas on that side. So it's a mirror match in terms of how they want to run their strategies to control the map so far, and it seems to be towards long B, and 3 players are stacked up there, and there's 3 looking to retaliate. I've seen this before as well. That's going to be the paint shells coming through, raining in the air, and that forces them to take the teleporter and put one away, and it's going to be a 2-minute advantage for Envy.
Silence.
Hiko with the pickoff on Crashies. The Sova v Sova goes the way of Sova. Who'd have thunk it? 100 Thieves going to get another kill as well. That's Dicey dropping FNS. They've lost some of that intel. Food able to take care of Dicey, though, and that puts all the pressure on the clutch god himself. It's Hiko. He's been in this position so many times throughout his career, but this curveball is likely to produce problems. Hiko does dodge it and actually gets around the corner quickly, so won't have to worry about the impending doom, and actually has the ability to get the spike out of this as well. When you look at the setup right now, they're going to have to send some resources over towards A, and they also force a blast pack out. You can see the Rays in spawn actually blast packing through spawn to try to rotate quicker. It's a small thing, but every penny counts.
Yeah.
There's the recon dart going through the dark cover. Hiko's now catching spam, has to be careful. The bullet's getting dangerously close, and he realizes the round is lost. It's time to run away. It will be another round on the board for Envy as he tosses a shock dart in as they try to follow up in his wake. But no kill will come in for Envy at the end.
And Envy was comfortable to actually let Hiko save his weapon there. And I found it that it was interesting that they actually let Hiko get the spike and maybe even let him run towards the A side at the beginning. But then you saw how they readjusted, right? As soon as Food went for the curveball and saw Hiko and decided to fall back, he was going to get some support from Mummy, which allows the third player to slowly rotate towards the A side. So if Hiko decides to book it back towards A to plant, it comes into a 1 versus 1 where Hiko actually has to stick the plant because there was not that much time left, and that would come to a secure round for Envy, and they run the number side on the crossfire on B because the spike was dropped closer to the site. That said, though, it's going to be an eco 400 Thieves, and Dicey opens it up onto FNS, and that upgrades into a Phantom, and to keep pushing forward. But unfortunately, the spike falls first, and Mummy drops with 2. So that's short A under control, and they also drop the Phantom upgrade towards the showers, and Envy continue to hold their ground.
Envy stalwart on the defense thus far. Nitro, the last man standing. He's had a couple of huge plays this event. People were concerned whether or not Nitro would plug directly in, and at first, all we really had to go off was Twitch clips. Watching people's streams to get an appreciation and an understanding for what he was going to bring to the table. Thus far in the tournament, he's had multiple highlight reel plays. Unfortunately, this map has not started out so well for him. 0-4 currently. Same with Asuna, a player whose performance we've typically praised, as Envy has controlled the early game, but another full buy comes in from 100 Thieves, and this might be the opportunity for them to get their foot in the door. It's going to come down to where they decide to execute and how. Now, one of the things that we loved when we used to watch Asuna play when he was on that 100 Thieves roster, when it came to, or on the Immortals roster, excuse me, when it came to Bind, they had this great setup with JC Stanny and the Boombot that they would take control of mid with. But here it's going to be Food who's pushing through in the showers. Mummy there with the backup as well. Now, Mummy does fall, but the advantage stays in favor of Envy. Yet again, 100 Thieves not having too much success the early round, going the way of their opposition. It's all falling onto Nitro yet again. He's in the showers, and the round's been rinsed down the drain, as it's a 1-on-4 and 4 rounds on the board for Envy, about to become 5.
100 Thieves really want to try to control both extremities of the map so far with these gun rounds. And you saw that triple setup as they're trying to get into the showers, a triple push. The tell was that recon dart that went back, and you saw how they adapted from Envy, though. They fell back towards the site. They used to run it back instead, so that's going to be the information taker for Envy. And on top of that, you're able to get 1 kill for Food pushing through a cloudburst and then taking down 1 member of the 100 Thieves, which allows him to get that numbers advantage. But when we're talking about highlight reels from Nitro before, how he fits into this, the story so far is the highlight reel of how Food, Mame, and Caboose are currently playing. We talked about them in terms of who we need in terms of the fragging power. The young guns are coming to work, but where Caboose was able to shine, he continues to be able to shine with his anchored play inside the A side and as well as towards the B. He's really being mobile on helping out Envy on these predictions on the stacks, and it's paying off in dividends. 100 Thieves now, They come back into a round where they're looking for a split, but they're really counting on the knives of Dicey. But they have a better crossfire position. I don't know if they're going to expect somebody playing towards the left side. Well, the curveball gives the jig away, but that still allows a double peek, and Crash needs to get the headshot onto Hiko, where Dicey's still trying to retaliate with the left clicks on the Nine's long range, but the Allen drone is going to push him out of position. That forces the hand for 100 Thieves to jump outside of Hookah, but it's still being held towards that back, and that's what I'm telling you about Caboose. That's 3 kills for him. And that's only going to be 1 more remaining. He still has the knives, and Dicey's in a predicament on this 5 versus 1.
Important to note, too, 100 Thieves have typically had a very strong attacking half on this map. In that series against Sentinels, they took 8 rounds on the attacking side of Bind. When they played against Luminosity earlier in the event, they took 9 rounds. So this is an uncharacteristic start for 100 Thieves. His Envy looks fantastic. We talked about it. Coming into this event, a lot of people said one of the teams that you needed to watch out for was actually Envy. And a lot of people kind of laughed at that, chuckled at, and said, you know, they haven't really been too much of a threat. You know, they were on the rise as Together We Are Terrific, but since then, they kind of just hit a plateau. Well, after, you know, we saw this roster revitalized, things have really turned around for them, and they've been incredibly good, hence why they're in this position to begin with, fighting for that #1 seed. And not only that, putting on a showing early on here against 100 Thieves, 6-0 currently, and they find yet another opener as Crashies is going to take out the threat of Asuna, who is really struggling to get started early on.
He was trying to get that hookah control on his own while 2 of his teammates were watching any type of aggressive push towards long B. But it's just better positioning from the back of ND, playing it more passively this time to look inside that hookah area instead of challenging close range, where they know if he's trying to play Asuna, that is, with the boom bot, with the paint shells to clear out the areas, they might get caught off guard. So they're doing a good job to readjust on to this strategy versus 100 Thieves. They also don't force any type of rotations. They still have 3 players on the A side. But 100 Thieves, they seem to want to contest towards this orb and using also the operator of Dicey to try to get an opening. The thing is, look at the positioning of the trap wires. If they try to take showers into the A side, that could do a lot of damage. Nice mollies to set things off. That's going to push them out of position from the back side here. That's courtesy of Steel.
Left.
But as they're still playing the passive side on Lamps, they still have a better angle for Envy, and it shows. FNS gets the kill onto Steel himself, and they spray through the smoke, the wall bang onto Hiko. A second one for Caboose. And it just continues on for this man as the Rays, as they're solidifying the defense and even the lead versus 100 Thieves on this first half. Man,
It continues to get worse. Yeah, this is looking rough right now for 100 Thieves. They need something to go their way. It's getting a little bit out of control. We'll see what they decide to do. The round is not going to be so pretty for them, as again, it's going to be pistols coming out into the fold. 7-0, and not a single plant. That's important. They have not been able to gain control of a site yet. Now, I do like what we're seeing here. Here's that traditional boombot control that we saw from Asuna when he played on Immortals, excuse me. And look at this fast play flying in. Rocket's going to go out, but in the meantime, 2 players had already fallen. So Caboose picked off one with a nade, and another one went down as well, reducing things to where we're at currently. And it's a counter rocket coming out. Caboose wants to send one into Hookah and does so. Doesn't really deliver on the threat. It'll just be down to Steel, though. 31 HP, and now getting caught as this player comes in on the flank. A dink shot through the wall that barely delivers any damage. Mame on 75 HP, armor stripped away. But who cares when you've got 9,000 credits sitting at your disposal? So he'll refresh his armor and maybe even spend some money elsewhere. And yeah, it looks like he's going to go with the operator purchase. They've got dual ops in play. This is a little bit scary, but we're finally going to see an op-to-op battle with 100 Thieves bringing one in the hands of Dicey. Alex, we've talked about it, though. The op on attack feels awkward now. It has not worked out as well as it used to, even for jet mains.
Yeah, but I feel Dicey is definitely a man that's able to do it right now for this roster. But when you think they've reached a light at the end of the tunnel for 100 Thieves, it doesn't pay off in their favor. Caboose, another frag, maybe another first blood in his favor. But on top of that, when they only carry one op, they have to face off against a double op from Envy. So it's going to be even harder for them to take control of the map. And you see one of the operators right now Mame by the APC, looking to push aggressively towards short, and he still gets that pick onto Steel. And he keeps walking and walking, taking that control, and with that, it's going to be FNS that's going to push forward. You're going to have a battle very soon. He wins it. He gets the double kill. There's only going to be one more, and it's going to be Caboose. The first one to get the kill, the last one to seal the deal, and it's 9 unanswered rounds for Envy. And they don't have that much to buy every single time in the next gun round. Because, yes, the investment looked pretty low for the operator's buy, but look at it in the end. They're still floating around that 9K limit.
100 Thieves just can't find an opening. Envy just consistently stomps out the push. Caboose currently putting on an incredible performance, 13-1. As yet another round goes live. Number 10, double-digit rounds, but not a single one in favor of 100 Thieves. Cyber Cage goes out, but it's a little bit too slow, so FNS will fall to Dicey as they continue to push fast into this A site. But no, he accidentally dashes into the portal. So that'll be a bit of a mistake because it takes away the lead performer here, typically for 100 Thieves. Now, at the same point in time, they've still managed to get the spike down, but they did lose Dicey across the map in a battle against Food. Crashies is going to spot one with the Owl drone, and the dart sends Steel back into the showers. That gives Crashies an opportunity to move out further. Unfortunately, the timing will not work well for him, as Steel has been the MVP of the round for 100 Thieves. As Food tries to come through with just 2 HP, a self-heal is necessary. And that Killjoy ult is down, so the lockdown not going to detain anyone. As he waits for his health to tick back up to as close to full as he can get it. 98 HP is all he's going to get, as he has to now dive bomb the spike to try and get the defuse. Quick kill coming out, but ultimately it'll be the 4K from Steel to save the day. He'll scoop up the operator in the end as well, and the spike will not detonate and cause his demise. 1 round on the board for 100 Thieves thus far. A little bit sketchy, but at least there's something there.
And the good news, at least from the accidental dash from Dicey going through the teleporter, is that even though he lost the fight versus Food, they know the rotation of that player is happening from very far away. And that allows 100 Thieves, after the pulse plan, to get more map control, more site control, and allowing to get that kill onto Crashies too. And I think it's still great on a 3 versus 1 inside the site that Steel puts the ultimate lockdown from the Killjoy, just to make sure that they could secure the round, to have one onto the board to start things off. But this round, though, you do already hear an early teleport inside teleporter, but who knows, at this point, from the point of view of 100 Thieves, was it going to be a fake teleport from the Omen, or did they actually really put somebody in there? And the answer is right there. Food opens the door, a curveball as well, but he doesn't get the kill. At least Mame chimes in on short A. Hunter's Fury come out, and Envy have a 2-minute advantage already, where 100 Thieves have to regroup as a team once again, take control of the map somewhere, and I think at this time it's going to be towards as a group. They have to work together now to try to take control of a site, but it's still a better setup here for Envy, as they have the numbers advantage, which allows them to get these stacks and these crossfires.
They also have the ult advantage as well into the shadows. Hunter's Fury, run it back. On the other side, they had to spend a lot of that ult point build-up to try to get that last round. More specifically, though, it was the lockdown from Steel. Caboose has a great position right now with the way that things are shaping up. A rare shock dart kill onto Mummy, but it does leave everything onto Steel, and again, caught off guard by FNS, who's lurking in the shadows in heaven. 10 rounds over 100 Thieves, just one. Caboose sitting pretty right now. 14-2, but with 12 ping, it's almost not even fair. I think he might be the server for this game. He's hitting the standby button on his modem. He's going with those old school console cheats. This man is putting on a clinic right now. And that's what's been wild about Caboose. We've gotten to see some just unreal performances from time to time. That said, there is still opportunity for 100 Thieves. I'd like to see them get this final round of this first half, because when they switch over to the defensive side, Steel on the defense is a seriously big problem playing as Killjoy.
And Envy, they still haven't, they've been relentless pretty much on the way that they're taking this map control, pushing aggressively early into the round. This time towards Hookah, it gets stopped, but as his mixed buy is coming through, we are once again counting on Dicey with the knives, but he does connect onto FNS, so that works out. He upgrades to a Phantom, and they also open up the site to have a moment of salvation for 100 Thieves to potentially put a second round into this half. and Mame is going to be the one that's going to try to move forward, but you also still have Caboose alive. So it's still not out of the woods yet for 100 Thieves. They're just waiting for these smokes to dissipate, and they could try to work together. They have the paranoia to work with from Murray on top of that. That's going to blind Dicey, but at least the crossfire is there to allow Asuna to get the frag onto Caboose. So last one to go is Mame. That clock is ticking down. He's just going to wind it down. He doesn't mind for them to lose the round in the end, but it'll be nice to get a couple of kills for Mame to just continue. There you go. To just continue to be crisp once they take the attacker side. And there you go. Finally, Dicey gets the third kill into the round thanks to his kunais, and it's going to be 10-2 to end the first half in favor of Envy.
Mummy just stat padding at the end, just trying to get a few more kills. The round was definitely over. There was not much that could be done. But again, now that we switch over to the defensive side, Steel, who's currently in that top performer position, largely in part due to the 4K and the round that they were able to win, Steel can now fall back on that utility a little bit harder as Killjoy and make it a whole lot more difficult for Envy. Would it be an insane comeback? Sure, of course it would. But we've seen that. Actually, I think in the open qualifier, there was a team who came back from an 11-0 deficit, won the last round of the half, and then actually won 13-11. So it's certainly possible. It can happen. And if anyone was going to do it, I feel like it would be this team of 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves has so many veteran players surrounding the two young guns. They're used to being in positions that are not necessarily ideal and having to keep their calm under pressure. We'll see if that's going to be the case. Nitro kicks things off with a pickoff onto Food. Great nade as well. The paint shell's doing significant damage to Caboose. There's a dart in Nitro's side that's going to initiate a nade toss in his direction. Has to be careful. Does manage to get around it, but ends up falling to FNS, who gets into position. Nitro was still on the site, but ultimately does go down after just one more. Envy swarms the site and brings things down to 2. Hiko trying to do what he can with the shock darts, but the spike will be planted, and now it's retake time.
At least you have 2 at low HP here, Box. So that's going to be FNS low, Caboose low, but Steel fallen. And it's back to Hiko on an attempt at a 3 versus 1. So he has the information where at least FNS is at, and also where Caboose is at from where the paint shells flew by, sorry. And now they're going to go for a double peek. That's where he's looking exactly where Caboose is, but it's still going to be Crashies that solidifies the round for Envy. And their take towards that B side was so nice. I like that Nitro did his best to try to slow down the push as much as he can from a paranoia that he threw from the back of the site into the front of the site. But they also had their own paranoia that was thrown. And not only that, we had paint shells that were thrown from Caboose too, and a side push through a cyber cage from FNS on the left side of the map in the back of the site that just allowed for him with the frenzy to sweep up those kills. And that was a quick, swift execution from Envy that 100 Thieves unfortunately did not have an answer to. And that forces them in a position where they have to buy on this defender round. They have a Sheriff to work with. Steel trying to go for some close range deeks, should I say the Sheriff, sorry, but he cannot get the kill. And he's forced to fall back, but he also calls for a full rotation of 100 Thieves towards the A side. So they're still hesitating for a bit as they realize the action has slowed down. They are just going to go back with 2 and 3. Just a default setup for 100 Thieves where they hope the Sheriffs could come in, ring, and save the round.
This is a very impressive performance from Envy thus far. I still want to hold out hope for 100 Thieves, but it's getting harder and harder to see the light at the end of that tunnel.
Yeah.
Envy hasn't necessarily been lights out on Bind during the closed qualifier. Losing to Cloud9 Blue 13-5. Losing to Sentinels in overtime 17-15. Losing to Dignitas 13-11. They did pick up a big win against Renegades 13-3 and also Complexity 13-7, but at the same point in time, the results certainly speak for themselves. Envy look like a completely different beast today. As they are up 11-2 and they're in a 5-on-3 as well. Looks like they might secure that 12th round as the spike's about to be planted. Dicey is forced to work with an LMG. The airs, is he going to be able to make something happen? He dashes in with the tailwind, and as soon as he peeks, crossfired upon, so now it's down to just 2.
Even a beautiful dart that greets him when he lands after that dash. And FNS picks up the last 2 towards you, and you saw how slow that was for, not necessarily slow, but patient it was for Envy. Control the site first, get the plant after. 3 players moving up towards the APC. They then used a curveball from Food, and they went for a triple peek towards the back of the site, which opened up the defenders back there because they knew that Steel was contesting since the beginning of the round from that short A side. And as he kept missing shots, they kept pushing forward, they kept pressuring him, and it got him into an area where he didn't even have a chance to get into an off angle where he could actually get them close range with the Sheriff, and that just allowed Envy to dominate on that last round. So Envy at map point, 100 Thieves stuck again on a mixed buy. We see a couple of Sheriffs, some Spectres. We don't know really if they're going to be able to get this back from at least how this whole match has gone on this first map in favor of Envy.
You said they were pressuring Steel. Would you consider these players his peers? If so, not cool. Peer pressure, not cool. What face in the chat? 12-2 right now for Envy.
Jeez.
They have a 10-round lead over 100 Thieves. And I like what 100 Thieves is doing here. Getting aggressive, using this lighter hardware to try and take that battle straight to the faces. And oh no,
yeah, big.
That is a brutal paranoia. That flash can be oh so intense. Dicey's trying to find safety in those swirling winds, but not able to, as eventually the bullets will pour through and he will succumb to his injuries, as does Nitro coming through the portal. It all falls on the Boomers. Hiko and Steel, what can they do with just pistols? We've seen impressive moments from them in the past, but it's not going to happen today. 13-2, Envy puts on a clinic on Bind, and 100 Thieves fail to get that early start they needed. I have my camera off. Whoops.
Surprise!
Boomer stuff. Twitch chat, it's all for you, I swear. Just forgive it.
Definitely a quick map going there for Envy here, Buck, as it was very one-sided, probably one of the quickest binds I've watched so far in this tournament. And when you mentioned the possibility of a 1-11, 13-11 like LG did versus Nbox, it did not come into favor for the 100 Thieves, unfortunately. And you know what? When I'm looking at this series, this best out of 3, like I said, I was giving the edge here for Envy on Bind. I'm giving the edge on the next map on Split. But I think the other two that will remain will have a chance here for 100 Thieves, or the 100 Thieves, sorry, to make this into a 5-map series. But this is definitely, even though you wanted to call this a close matchup on Bind because it was good results from 100 Thieves, it definitely shows that Envy, they just want to end this really quick.
Yeah, you got to applaud Envy for their performance. We hope to see a little bit more from 100 Thieves, but this is a long series. It's a best of 5. There's still plenty of maps to be played out. And as such, we are going to go ahead and throw things to a break. When we come back, we'll be jumping into map number 2 to see if Envy is going to continue where they left off in map number 1. Stay tuned, and Nerd Street Gamers' First Strike Close qualifiers will continue in just a bit.